right, fam, let's get this episode rolling. Welcome to another episode of Heat Check Radio. If you guys are new, thank you. I ask that you like, subscribe, comment, do all of the things. I started this channel a little while ago because I wanted to not just talk about gun reviews and accessories and gear, the things that I typically talk about on the 2A NLA channel. I wanted us to be able to have broader discussions surrounding the Second Amendment. And that's really what this channel was established to do, whether that's in-depth interviews with amazing builders or in-depth look at companies or things that affect us in the 2A community in the broader sense. I thought based on that, this would be a good conversation to have. And perhaps maybe I'll come at it a little bit different than what you're seeing from other YouTubers, what you're seeing certainly in the press, and what you're hearing from politicians. Let me just say this. I think the world is very polarizing, and I think it's intentionally done. I think politicians and mainstream media are there to pit us against one another, to make us take sides, and to present things in a us versus them framework, right? And I'm not with that. I'm not with that. I love all my brothers and sisters, fellow citizens, and so I'm not here to play those games. I think depending on the lens that you want to look at these recent shootings in Minnesota from, you can do that, right? I think if you are on the right, you can portray the young lady and the gentleman who lost their lives at the hands of ICE agents. You can portray them as antagonists and demonize them, and many of the media are. I think if you're on the left, you can make them heroes and you can demonize the ICE officers if you so choose to do that. I don't want to have those conversations. I don't want to talk about who's right or who's wrong, who's more at fault, who's less at fault, whose side I'm on versus this side. I'm not on anybody's side. I'm on the side of common sense. And here's what I would say. I think that the framework that I want to talk about is, what can we learn from these events? What should our takeaway be? I think the takeaway for me, and something that I've long since known, is that life is fragile. You can be here one moment and gone in an instant. And sometimes we have very little say-so into how and when that happens, right? But what I will say is, if you are going to be out in the streets, if you're going to protest, if you're going to put yourself in an environment where tensions run high, if you're going to put yourself in an environment where people are armed and prepared, obviously, to use lethal force, then you have to have an understanding that whatever you do could cost you your life. And I don't think the young woman, when she woke up that morning, thought that today was going to be her last day on earth. I don't think the gentleman who lost his life, when he woke up that morning, thought that today was going to be, that day was going to be his last day on earth. And I think that you have to, the takeaway should be that that is what's at stake. There are a lot of ways to protest. Certainly, peaceful protest is a methodology that's been tried and true. You can also protest with your vote. You can also protest at the ballot box. You can talk to your local and state and federal officials that represent you. You can fight with your dollars and not support companies that don't align with your ideology. There's a lot of ways to protest, but just know when you go out on the street and you put yourself into harm's way, your life is what's at stake. Now, if whatever the cause is worth that to you, then I understand. As an African American and as, somebody who has a keen sense of history, you've seen the videotapes of the civil rights movement in the 50s, 60s, and 70s of people, white and black, getting attacked by dogs, being beaten, having water hoses turned on them, being arrested. I think a lot of the people in that era, I think they were prepared to lose their lives. I think they felt like the cause justified it. Now, I'm not saying that this cause is any less. I'm just saying I feel like they knew the stakes. I don't know if the individuals who are out here in this age of social media and hyperbolic, in your face kind of stuff, I don't know if people are waking up thinking that they're going to be in a position where they could lose their lives by going to these things, by impeding these ICE officers while they are attempting to do their job, right or wrong. And so, look, if you've had that thought process, if you've talked about it with your significant other, if your family is financially positioned to be able to move on without you, and you feel like this is worth that, then okay. God bless you, and you're in my thoughts and prayers. But if you're not that, if you haven't had those conversations, if your family cannot stand to be without you, then you need to really think about your form of protest and your approach. And to me, that's the thing that we should be taking away from this incident. Your job, in my opinion, as a father, as a mother, as a husband, as a wife, as a boyfriend, as a girlfriend, as a son, as a daughter, is to get home to your family. That's your primary responsibility, to get home to your family. And I just think people they get emotional, and they lose sight of that. And I just want everyone to be aware of the consequences for your actions. It is a tragedy that these individuals lost their lives. And like I said, you can say the ICE agents were overzealous, that they overstepped their bounds, that they're ill-trained, that they're itching for this kind of activity. You can blame them if you want. You can blame the protesters. You can be like they're, impeding federal officers and they're, raising the emotional level and they're doing too much and you can make those arguments as well. I'm not here to make those arguments. To me, doesn't matter right or wrong. The reality is that if you are going to place yourself in that position, you're putting your life at risk. And you need to know that and understand that and be aware of what that could mean for you and your loved ones. And that's the message that I want to get across. That's the message I want to get across. To me, it's not a Second Amendment issue. Yes, the gentleman was licensed to carry a firearm. He had a firearm with an extra magazine. Millions of people carry in that way on a daily basis in this country without incident. So, and it doesn't matter that he was going to a protest, in my opinion. It doesn't matter that protest, grocery store, school, wherever. It doesn't matter. If he's licensed to carry legally, then he can carry. That's not the issue. The issue is he obviously felt passionately about what was going on and had showed up, in the week prior and that day. And I don't think, like I said, I don't think he woke up that morning thinking that this was going to be his last day on earth. I don't think he woke up, I doubt he woke up that morning thinking I could lose my life doing what I'm about to do. And that was a mistake. That was his mistake. It wasn't carrying a gun. His mistake was not having a clear understanding that he was putting his life in danger. Same thing with the young lady. And I think what I want to share to everyone, there are all going to be causes. There are times we're always going to disagree. There are times when we're going to disagree with certain laws that are passed, with certain things that the federal, state, and local government does. And I am not opposed to peaceful protest. The problem with protest, in my opinion, these days, is that you're not going to be the only protester, right? Even if you have every intention of being peaceful, other people in the crowd may not. And you don't know how people are going to respond to them. You don't know how armed officers are going to respond to you. Life is not fair. And so, knowing that, you need to be keenly aware of what's at stake. And what's at stake is your life. 100%. Should it be that way? No. Is it that way? Yes. What I would tell all you guys is to get home to your family. Get home to your loved ones. There's lots of ways to voice your displeasure. Being out in the streets confronting armed officers probably is not the best way to do it, in my opinion. All right, that's it for this episode for Heat Check Radio. I appreciate you guys stopping through. Again, make sure you subscribe to the channel. We're going to be bringing a lot of great content and having a lot of great conversations. All right, till next time, take care of one another and peace.